to Reads and Threads. My name's Kate. Hello if you're new here. Welcome back if you're joining us again. Today we are going to go over my March wrap up. Okay, so as always, today we are going to start with the stats and kick off from there. Overall, this month, the month of March, was not a bad month. I did compete in Realmathon, so did manage to actually get a lot read. However, a fair few of them were technically novellas, so it didn't take as long, hence I was able to get through as many as I did get through. So in total, this month, I have read 13 books, which consisted of a page count of 3,999. So close to around 4,000, but which would have been awesome, but can't have it all. With an average pages per day being 129. So again, like I just said, really happy with that. Though most of them are novellas, I'm really happy with that number. Okay, star breakdown. I had 1 4.5 star, 8 4 stars, 2 3.5 stars, and 2 3 stars. So that gives us an average star rating of 3.81, which isn't the best, but it's not that bad either. I think overall having that many above 3 stars is just, it's great. So I think it's been a really good month for reading. Publication breakdown, I did 2 new releases this month and 11 backlist. Format wise, we have 2 that I read physically, 5 that I listened to on audio, 4 that I did on ebook, and then 2 mixed media. Now the mixed media, one was an audio and ebook, and the other one was an ebook and physical. Just worked out that that was an easier way to be able to read it wherever I was. Series breakdown now. We had 3 series that I started, 6 that I continued, 2 that I completed, which I am super happy about, and then just 2 standalones. For our age demographic, we had 2 young adult that I read and 11 that were adult. How I acquired these, I had 2 from Apple Books, 1 from Audible, 2 that I acquired via Kindle, though not through my KU subscription. I did buy these ones outright. 7 that I got from the library and 1 that I got from Everand. Genre-wise, we had 4 fantasy, 1 romance, 6 sci-fi, 1 romantasy, and 1 that I'm considering general. So I'm going to, like always, refer to my notes that I've written down while I talk about these books. So the first one, we are just going to go in the order that I finished them and read them. So the first one I read this month was Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. And this was the last book, so book 7 in the Throne of Glass series. It was an extensive read. It is an epic book. This one I listened to on audio and absolutely loved it. I was a little worried at the beginning that a lot of the characters, because they were separated from what had happened in the previous books, were going to stay separated for an extensive length of time throughout the story, but they did actually start coming together fairly quickly, which I was really happy about. The action was getting good. It's the end of the story, so everything was wrapping up. All our characters were finishing off their storylines. I just think it was a really good ending, and I actually do really enjoy this series overall. Whether I would reread it, I have said in my previous vlogs, my weekend vlog, my reading while I was reading this, and even while I was reading the other books in this series, that I didn't know if I would read it again. I probably am still going to stick with that. I'm not entirely sure. It was a good time. I did enjoy it, not as much as ACOTAR, but it is still very good. I did like the fantasy aspects in it. I think her world building was great. I liked the majority of all of the characters. I thought they were really interesting and well padded out. Overall, it's a really solid series. I enjoyed it more than Crescent City, and I am interested to see if she does eventually merge this series with any of the others. Again, there is underarching references that you could definitely see could be links to the ACOTAR world or the Crescent City world. So she's definitely left it open to be able to do that. I know from what I've heard, she is in the middle of doing another ACOTAR book, and whether that links in, I'm not entirely sure. Because I hadn't read this before I read Crescent City and ACOTAR, there may be bits in those books that I've missed or I'm not remembering that do refer back to this one. I'm not sure. I gave this 4.5 stars. It didn't quite hit that 5-star feeling for me, but I loved it. I really liked the war scenes. I thought the character interactions were good. I never fully got behind the main relationship, so Selena's predominant relationship. Maybe I missed something when they were setting it up. I never really shipped them, I guess is probably the best way to say it. I didn't feel like they had to be together. I didn't have really strong feelings one way or the other. I did like a lot of the new characters that were introduced towards the end of this series. I thought they were really well done and just appreciated having a good fantasy series to get my teeth into and really enjoyed my time. The next book that I finished up in March was Valor by Gwynne. So this is book 2 of the Faithful and the Fallen series, and this series I am reading along with Becca in the books as she does her catch-up book club. I have never read any Gwynne before, so catch-up book club will go through the Faithful and the Fallen series and then his follow-up series that is set in the same world, and even though I just bought it, I cannot remember what it is called. So that series is called Of Blood and Bone. So this one has 4 books in this series, whereas Of Blood and Bone is only a trilogy and is set, I think, an extensive time after the events that happen in this series. So this is my first read through. Valor, I had to get done by the 9th of March, and I did manage to complete it at, I think it was 3:30 that morning, ready to watch the live show that for my time zone, that actually ended up being at 6:30 on Monday morning on, I think it was the 9th. Yeah, anyway, 6:30 Monday morning. Everyone in England would have been Sunday night, which just gave me that little bit longer to finish it, which was really handy. And I really enjoyed my time with it. We meet a lot of the same characters that came up in the first book. Some of their situations were absolutely devastating. Some of my main storylines that we got to were the most devastating ones, unfortunately, and I was just really eager for that character to be able to get out of the situation that they were in and hopefully have a good outcome. We had a lot of advancement in the overall plot, so the characters are moving around a lot more than they were in the first one, and we have our main character, Corbin, starting to come to grips with the possibility that he is special and that he is the bright star, the one that's going to battle the Black Sun, and that's what I think is going to happen anyway. I'm not entirely sure if that does happen. Just from the setup that has happened in this book and the last book, I feel like that's where it's going. Whether I'm right, I guess we'll find out when I read the next one and the one after that, but I really did enjoy it. I had a great time reading it. I think it is very well written, and there are characters that I'm really loving and characters that I'm absolutely hating, and really hope that they get really untimely deaths and horrible deaths, because I do like that when I don't like a character, actually seeing them kind of suffer. It's probably a bit, tells you a bit about me, that I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I like people having consequences and getting their comeuppance a bit, especially if they've been taking advantage. And yeah, really looking forward to how this one's going to end. I really loved doing Becca's Catch-Up Book Club with her and interacting with all of the other participants throughout the live show and with the hosts. It was a lot of fun. If you haven't started and you think this might be a good series for you and fun, I will link Becca's channel down below, as well as the announcement video for Catch Up Book Club for The Faithful and the Fallen, the Gwynne series. And I'm sure, depending on how fast you read, it's not too late to join in. This is only the end of the second book. The third book you'd need to have read by May. So you've got a bit of time. It is a lot of fun. I would highly recommend if you haven't read already. It is a really good fantasy series, and this was this author's debut fantasy series. So you can see improvements as he goes along as well. But overall, even just knowing it's his first series, I think he's done an awesome job. And so far, it's been epic. The next book that I read this month was by an Australian author, particularly a South Australian author. So she's extremely local to me because that's the state that I live in. And I found out about her due to Fiction and Friction, the indie bookshop that I found in Murray Bridge, putting on an event for her for this book. So one of my friends asked if I was interested in going along, and that just led to obviously us reading the book before we went. So I did manage to get a copy via the library system and get that read before the event, and the event was a lot of fun. If you haven't been to an author event before, it is just a really good time listening to them talk, one, about their book, their writing style, how they came up with all the characters, all that kind of thing. It is just really interesting to see behind the scenes a bit. Hear some stories. You can generally get your book signed. Highly recommend, if you haven't been to one already, to go along. This was a really great event. Britt, who runs the bookshop, has an event space out the back, which was really handy. So I'm not entirely sure if that's where they run. I know that they do book clubs there and that kind of stuff, and then just the author events. I'm assuming that's where she has all those, but it was just a really nice space. We were also able to shop that night, which was really good because I did have a voucher to spend there. But overall, highly recommend. One, if you haven't checked out Fiction and Friction yet, definitely go along. And two, just author events in general, I think they're really great. Lots of local libraries and bookshops put them on. So check out what's going on in your area and go along because there's so many cool things that you can do. So the book that we went to the event for was called I Promise I Won't Fall by Emily Nicole. And like I said, Emily is a South Australian author. This is her debut novel and it is set in Adelaide. So for me, I found one interesting and a bit weird at the same time. So he having reference to places that actually exist and are around the corner, and then others that I had to really think, is that really there? So we follow our main character, Ella, as she's in the middle of dating. And then the main male lead character, Xavier. Now he actually manages a bar called Jimmy's. So I was at one point just thinking, is this a real place? Like, has she just taken the name of a bar in the city and run with it? I did Google it. I don't think it is actually, or if it is, I don't know that it is called Jimmy's. Not that I could find anyway that had the same description that she's given it. And I did mean to ask when we went to the event, but never actually did. So that will probably forever be a mystery to me, whether that was actually an actual bar that she has referenced or not. But overall, I have given this book 3 stars. I did enjoy it. I think that the beginning was written a fair bit like I was reading a fanfic. So I did struggle at the beginning a bit. The whole book I think was about 250-ish pages, so it wasn't hugely long. It is in my least favourite style though, so it's written in the first person narrative, but we do get a dual perspective. So we have Ella's chapters and Xavier's chapters, which I did find interesting. I liked hearing both sides of the conversation and that kind of thing. I just thought that a couple of the scenes, so there's some scenes where she goes to therapy, which is great to have in a story. I think that is awesome representation, and a lot of people need to be doing more of that kind of stuff than we probably do now. I just probably didn't need the level of detail that was in it myself. We went through the entire therapy session, both sides with what was said, and from what I have now listened to her say at her event, that was intentional. just for like representation of therapy and that kind of stuff, which is great. I just found I didn't need it. I pretty much probably could have skipped that entire bit. I did find as well, I did read the author note about the author at the end of the book and thought that she had modeled Ella to herself. And she did say, "You write what you know," so that kind of thing. And then there was a tagline at the event where she was pretty much just saying, not a biography. So she obviously has made up some things, but then a lot of the stories that she does have did seem to sound extremely similar to what happened to Ella in the book. So it was a funny little side joke on the night, but you could kind of tell straight off that Ella was a version of our author, which probably isn't hugely uncommon. I'd say probably a lot of authors do that. It was just pretty obvious, but it didn't really detract much from the story. I just thought it was kind of funny. I did find that her writing did definitely improve as I went through the book. I enjoyed the second half of the... Sorry, I just dropped my little clicker. I enjoyed the second half of the book a lot more than the first half. Like I said, it was a really fast, easy read. I flew through it, and I would say that I would definitely pick something else up from her and give it a go. I think she said she was writing another romance and delving into a possible fantasy, romantasy type book, which sounds really interesting. So hopefully she does continue on, and I can say that I started with her from the beginning because I would like to pick up some more of her stuff. I would definitely recommend checking it out. Xavier is an awesome pick for your next book boyfriend if you're looking for one of them. And I think he did definitely have his issues and his own baggage, which everyone does when they hit their 30s and beyond. But it was a really nice romance. And it was good actually seeing a romance with characters set in their 30s instead of at university or high school or those kind of settings. I prefer, I think, to read about people that are closer to my own age. There's not a huge amount of books that are written with characters that, especially romance, a lot of the time in those older age brackets. So that was a good take, and I found it really interesting just on a little look at someone's dating world, and it was a fun read. Give it a go. Get your hands on it if you can. It is on KU. I'm pretty sure it was on Kindle Unlimited. At that stage, I didn't have a Kindle Unlimited as an option and wanted to just see how I liked it before we went to the event so that I could get it. So I was really glad that I was able to pick it up from the library. So the next book that I went on to was The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary. Now this was the book host, so my In Real Life Book Club's next book. So this was our April read. I was a bit ahead of the game because I DNF'd the one before this. And funnily enough, I DNF'd this one too. With this one, I got 38 pages in, which is not a huge amount, I think. Let's have a look. I got to the end of chapter 6, so the beginning of chapter 7. This follows Tiffy and Leon, and they are in London, I think that it's set. And she's on the hunt for a new place to live. She has ex issues and has to move out. And he is looking for more money. He's in another relationship, but he also has a brother that is incarcerated and needs money to pay for his legal fees. So he comes up with the idea of renting out his flat overnight. He tends to work nights. She would stay in the flat between certain hours and be able to live there without them running into each other. They would share a bed, but never ever be there at the same time. And then he would have it during the day if he needed to go to the flat during the day. I didn't mind Tiffy's chapters. I thought that the narrator for Tiffy was quite good. I liked her English accent, but the narrator for Leon, there was just something about his voice that was completely putting me off. but also his chapters were just written so differently. So his chapters made it seem like I was reading a screenplay, and it just was not working for me. And so then I thought maybe it's just the audio, because I knew a couple of my other friends that are in my book club had already read it and enjoyed it. So one of them had given it like 4 stars, I think, and another one since then, a lot of them have enjoyed it. But I tried this physically. It finally came in from the library physically, and I had a go, and it wasn't any better reading it. And so I did ask my friends, how did you get through? Like, what am I missing? And they were pretty much just like, I just dropped my brain at the door and continued on and managed to enjoy it. And I don't know that if I was just overanalyzing it, if it was just a bugbear for me, but I just couldn't handle the differences in the narration or the style between the chapters. If the whole book was written the same way that she wrote Tiffy's chapters, I think it would be fine. I love the idea and the premise for the plot, but I just couldn't do it. I will find out at book club how it ends. I'm not entirely sure. I already know. I know we have discussed it, me and a couple of my other friends, but book club's coming up soon. So this will be the book that we're talking about. So I will at least get to hear more about it. But I don't know that I've missed out a huge amount. I was really looking forward to hopefully finding a romance this month that I actually liked, but I didn't. So that's unfortunate, but I don't know if Beth O'Leary's stuff is all written like that, whether she would be an author for me or not. At this stage, it's not making me want to pick up anything else that she's read, but who knows what will happen in the future. But for now, I've DNF'd this one and I will be returning this to the library. We then in March hit, I think, the 14th and the 15th. And as I was participating in Realmathon, there is a weekend put aside that is like a mini 48-hour readathon where you get double points for anything that you manage to complete within that 48 hours. And this year's readathon was called the Gala of Peace. It was pretty much just the idea that you had to get as many books read as you want, and you got page point counts for anything under 200 pages as well. So that was great. So a lot of people were planning on reading novellas and that kind of stuff, which wouldn't normally get you a page count bonus, but even this 48 hours would. So even though I had started another book, I did pop that one aside just to try and get some extra points for Realmathon and read a few novellas. So I don't have a huge amount of novellas actually on my TBR at the moment. So I did have a look around and a bit of a think. And I had heard a lot of booktubers talking about an author called J. Bree, and 2 of her books in one of her series, they start as novellas. So I was like, cool, I can read those. So the first one is called The Scepter, and then we have The Sword. So I went online, looked up where I could find them. They were available in Kindle Unlimited. Again, I didn't have a Kindle Unlimited subscription, so I just thought, you know what, I will buy them outright. They were like $5 each. And it turned out 3 days after that, I ended up getting a Kindle Unlimited subscription anyway. So probably a bit unfortunate how that series of events played out. However, I did buy those. And then the other books that I thought might be good, because I was looking for audio books as well that I could read over this period, was Martha Wells' Murderbot series. I'd heard a couple of people at work absolutely rave about them. One who sits in my office, so he has been reading along for a little while and continuously talking to me about them. And then another one was put out over Teams on our kind of reader advisory chat. And again, she was raving about them. So I was like, I heard the first 4 were novellas. So I was like, they will be perfect for this weekend. I managed to find the first 4 on a digital product called Hoopla that we have available at the library. So I got those, and unfortunately didn't really get through much of anything in that 48 hours. A lot of that weekend actually ended up being extremely busy. I can't even remember what I did, but I know I had something on on both the Saturday and Sunday of that weekend, but I did try, and I did manage to get a couple in for the extra points, which was good. So the first one I did read was J. Berry's The Scepter. This is a setup for a series called Mortal Fates, and this book was only 88 pages, so it's not very long. You are meeting our female main character that's going to be throughout the series, so it's kind of her prequel history from where the series starts off, how she ends up in the situations that she's in. She is a witch and is living a comfy lifestyle in the middle of the forest. Doesn't know much about what's going on in the outside world until that is all destroyed. And then her and her brother are pretty much the only survivors, as far as I know at the moment, of an attack. And they're not entirely sure who does it, but they're out and they come back and their entire village has been wiped out. It was a really intriguing idea. She is already on the way to going on a journey to a seer to discover what her fate is going to be. So as they come to a certain age, they go and see a seer, they tell them their fate, and that's pretty much their future mapped out for them. She is also in line to be the mother of this coven. It is a matriarchal society. She's going to be the most powerful witch in this coven and be their leader when she comes of age. And it's her coming to terms with that and her journey to find her fate, and just really good setup for a story. Again, it seems to be a running theme with this month, but it's a first person narration. And it just really doesn't work very well for me. I feel like I'm reading someone's diary when I get first person narration, because there's just a lot of like, they're considering thoughts and that kind of stuff. I really don't like it. To say it's not enough of a dislike to put me off reading it. Again, it was short and shiny and really easy to read and really enjoyable, and I think a good setup for what will hopefully be a great series. Like I said, I then also at the same time wanted an audio, so I did start the Murderbot Diaries Book 1 with All Systems Red by Martha Wells. I did struggle at the beginning, just felt like I was missing something in the setup, that maybe there was another novella or short story or something before this one. We just jumped straight in, and it just took me a bit to figure out what a Murderbot was, two, where they were, who all the characters were, all that kind of stuff. So it wasn't a hugely short novel. I think it was about 150-ish pages, but I did really enjoy it. It had great atmosphere, great setup, and I think the Murderbot is hilarious. He has hacked his own protocols, so he now pretty much just wants to spend his time watching the media channel and all of these series that he's found within their database. And so he then still though has to come to terms with his main function and hopefully not get found out that he has the ability to hack his own protocols. He also has to interact with his human clients and deal with their emotions and their feelings, and the fact that they're not overly comfortable having a murder bot within their setup. It was a really good read. It's lots of fun. It's a quick one. It's fairly fast paced. I did really enjoy it. I flew through it, and I liked it so much that I did give it 4 stars. I thought it was a solid read and was fairly eager to get to the next one in that series as well. The next book I finished was called This Night So Dark, which was by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. That is a novella that's set in the Starbound series world, and I think it's like 2.5 or 1.5 or something. But it follows the 2 main characters from that series, Tava and Lilac, and it's pretty much Tava telling Lilac a story of a mission that happened to him 6 months before they met in the first book of the Starbound series and the events that happened in that one. I don't know that it is overly necessary for the whole series. It has been a while since I read the Starbound series, and I did really enjoy listening to that trilogy when I did read it. I thought that it was really well done, but I didn't miss anything having not read this till now, and I don't think that it overly added much information now having read it that I needed to know to make the trilogy work. So I think, one, if you can't get your hands on this, don't worry, it's not going to affect the trilogy at all. And if you can get your hands on it, it's a nice quick read. Like, it's only very short. It didn't take me very long at all, and it was just one that I had on my to read list, and it had been sitting there for a while, and I thought if I could get it, it would give me good points for Realmathon, and I would just get it off my list. Okay, back to audio. So we're just jumping from like ebook, audio. But the next three I finished fairly quickly in succession were the next three Murderbot Diaries books. So we had Artificial Condition, Rogue Protocol, and Exit Strategy. So I gave these in that order: 4.5 stars, 3.5 stars, and 4 stars. So Rogue Protocol, which was book 2, I think overall was a really great addition to the Murderbot series. It was a great sequel. It just enhanced where the first one left off. We were introduced to a new character. So Murderbot has left the characters from the previous book. He meets a new research transport vessel called Art, and their interactions just made this story. Art is sarcastic and just really funny, and the way that they are communicating through the whole story, it was great. It was so well done and well written. I just think that it really added to it, and it just made it even better than the first one. Rogue Protocol, number 3. I didn't enjoy this one as much. We didn't have any of the characters from the first 2 in this story still. And although that worked fine for book 2, it didn't work for book 3 in my opinion. The characters that were introduced, I don't think they were as engaging or even as interesting as the characters in the first 2. There is an underlying plot, going through the whole set of books. So you do have an increase in that. So you do find out some things, and Murderbot is trying to find out information to help the characters from the first book. But overall, I don't know. It didn't really gel as well with me, this one. Although quick and easy to read, not my favorite. We then had Exit Strategy. So Murderbot does return and start to interact with a lot of the characters from book 1, which I thought was really good. It is a definite improvement on book 3. I had a really good time. I don't want to go into too much detail about any of these. Being a series, I don't want to give a huge amount away or anything, but you can see in this one a lot of the, like I said, the underlying plot was ramping up, and it was just a good time. So definitely recommend giving them a go if you haven't already. I am eager to continue on. I think I'm actually up to like another little in-between book. So it's going to be even shorter than these 4, which are already considered novellas. I don't know that I can get that one on audio. I might have to read it. I do have an ebook version of it that I got on Apple Books. So I might have to read that one just as a little ebook at some point, but hopefully I can get to that soon and continue on because I am really enjoying myself. Next up, we had my most anticipated book of March, and that is Rebel Witch by Kristen Ciccarelli. I was hanging to read this. I was originally hoping to have this on my February TBR. It was originally, I think, going to be releasing on the 18th. And I think it did in America, though in Australia it didn't come out till like the 27th, 28th of February. So there was no way I was necessarily going to, be able to get my hands on it. Because even for like the next week, I think I struggled to find it in bookshops. But I did have an ebook version of it, and about halfway through my read of my ebook version, the book came in at the library and I was first in line for that one. So I did manage to get that, which was great. So this is the second in the Crimson Moth duology, and we're following Rune and Gideon, who are a witch and a witch hunter, and they are still just thrust together in this story. Both of them are feeling betrayed by the other. Given the events of the last book and where that left off, it was interesting to see how she was going to bring them back together again, which I did quite enjoy. So Rune is still fighting on the side of the witches in an effort to overthrow the New Order and stop the persecution of witches, because they want to wipe them all out. She, in the first book, has been secretly rescuing witches from imprisonment and trying to get them to safety. And Gideon is trying to, in this book, prove his loyalty to the New Order. He's a witch hunter. Given the events that happen at the end of the Crimson Moth, he's not in the best standing and just wants to, one, take the Crimson Moth out to prove that he is on their side. Overall, I did enjoy this. I don't know that I enjoyed it as much as the first one. It is a good read. I just felt like it was too quick. I think it would have made a really good trilogy. I do like the idea of a duology, but I don't know that for this story, it worked. I think it could have easily have gone another book and still been really entertaining. In saying that, still really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars, so it wasn't as good as the first, like I said, but overall it was a great time. I really want special editions of both this and the Crimson Moth, so I'm definitely on the lookout for those. Hopefully I'll be able to find ones that I like and can get that aren't hugely expensive, but we will see. Shipping costs to Australia sometimes can bite me, but that's my plan. Really enjoyed it. I will return this one to the library because I'm sure that the next people on the list are eager to finish it off. Okay, we're down to the end. So we've got 2 more books left, so stick with me. We're nearly there. The next one that I read was A Thing About Home by Rhonda McKnight. This one I picked up because I am in the middle of the Buzzword Challenge, which is to read a book every month from a set of prompts. Now, the prompt for March was to read a book with thing in the title. So it could be thing on its own, which is where I've gone. It could be a book with anything, nothing, something. All of those options were okay. When I was looking to figure out what book I would read for this prompt, it turned out that there was only one book on my current want to read list that had thing in the title, and it was the second in a series. And I wasn't likely to be able to read the first book to get to that one in time. So I scoured the library, asked a fair few people, and I found this one. Now, at the library where I got it, it has been put in the romance section. So I thought that that was cool. I could maybe hopefully get a new romance author out of it. However, on reading, I don't think it's a romance at all. So I think I'm going to, when I get back to work, recatalog this one into our general collection. If not, into our general collection. It has a romance in it, though that is not its predominant storyline. We're actually following Casey Black. She starts out in New York and is about to do her vow renewal. She's been married to her husband for the last 7 years. She is in social media. She has millions of followers. She was a model and she has made this vow renewal an epic event. She has sponsors, all that kind of stuff. And he decides he can't go through with it. He doesn't want to be married to her anymore, but he tells her like an hour before they're about to walk down the aisle while they're at the church. And she loses it, as you would. But she pretty much has a breakdown in front of all her followers on her video later on that night, and then just realizes that she needs to take a step back, take a breather, and ends up going down to where her father was from in South Carolina. And she doesn't know a huge amount about her father or his family because he died before she was born. And her mum hasn't really told her much about them at all either. They've never gone down to visit them. She knows nothing. She just knows that they're from Georgetown, and that's about it pretty much. She has his name, all of that, but not much at all. So we're pretty much heading down there as she's discovering her past, so her family history. And she is a Black woman in America, So you do have all of the slave history coming up in this, the plantation history. I don't know a huge amount about the American history in general, like other than what I have seen in movies, which is probably extremely dramatized. We in Australia don't study it a huge amount in our schooling. I have obviously heard it. In my own travels to America, I have visited plantations and read a bit on the history and how the slaves there were treated, and just the struggles to survive and the conditions that they were in were atrocious. But so I think predominantly this book is more about her coming to terms with her ancestors, and you do get chapters from one of her ancestors' point of view, so set back. And then it's about them setting up a farm in Georgetown that they managed to buy during this whole time period. And it ends up being one of the biggest towns in Georgetown by the time we get to Casey's time. And it's her coming to terms with the secrets that her mother's kept, learning her family history, meeting her family, dealing with the fallout of her social media, and then a lot of inner monologue on her, is what she's doing really what she wants to be doing? It's self-discovery, it's going back to her roots, finding out about herself, and the ability to move on. As some of it, I'm not religious in any way, shape, or form, and considering that this is set in South Carolina, it was a little religious for me. It's not my favorite thing to read about. Hopefully that doesn't offend anyone. But overall, not a bad book. I don't know, I think it's like between a 3.5 to a 4-star read. It was fine. There were bits that where I was like, I'm reading it. I don't overly love it, don't overly hate it. It's an average good read. It has extremely high reviews on Goodreads, so people who have read it have really enjoyed it, and it was good. So if you like a historical American read, this might be the one for you. Hello, so editing Kate jumping in here. I am in the middle of putting together the edit for my March wrap up and realised I forgot a whole book that I did mention that I'd purchased for the Gala of Peace, but never actually told everyone anything about it, or the fact that I actually did read it. Not in the weekend that I was originally thinking that I would, but later in the month. And that was The Sword by J. Bree, which is the second of the 2 novellas that are set before the first actual book in the Mortal Fate series. And this one, though, follows the other half of the couple. So Prince Soren, who is a high fae, and it's his history, the same whereas we were seeing Rook's beginnings of her story. He is the prince of the realm, and his parents are murdered, and there is a witch war starting, and he is not able to actually gain his throne after the death of his parents because he has to have found his fated mate before that is allowed to happen. So within this, it is him trying to, one, find his fated mate, deal with the death of his parents, the ongoing conflict with the war, and you just get a bit of an insight into him. He can already communicate with Rook, who is his mate, but they don't know who each other is at this point properly. He has no idea that she is actually a witch, and yeah, so it's just a setup book for him. And similarly to The Scepter, it's only about 90 pages, so it's not long at all. It is literally just an introduction. Again, it's in a first-person narrative, which we all know that I detest. But it was still a good, little beginning snippet. We do have a little bit of a time jump from when The Scepter was set as well. He's a lot older. He's had a lot of time, one, fighting witches, and really getting to that point where his hatred for witches in general is just intense. And he thinks that wiping out the witches is the only way forward. which, when you think about it, doesn't overly bode well for the fact that, unbeknownst to him, his fated mate is a witch. Which we know that. So that actually leads us off and sets us off for a really good series, I think. And I'm really hoping that it will become a really good series. From the reviews that I have read for the series in general, it is looking promising. I am hoping that I am really going to enjoy it. And when I get to it, we will see what I think. Overall, I didn't enjoy the sword as much as the scepter. I only gave the sword a 3.5. Still a fun time. And like I said, it's only like 90 pages, so it doesn't take a huge amount of time to read. The last book that I did end up finishing off in March was Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I am technically reading this one for another video that will hopefully come out soon. So I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail about it. You will see most of my thoughts in that vlog. But overall, I'm a little unsure as to the hype of this series as of yet. I didn't completely dislike it, but I didn't super love it either. I've given it 3.5 stars, so not too bad. I have intentions of picking up the next one. I will continue on, though I won't be continuing on straight away. But yeah, overall, a good read. It was interesting, but not my favorite. And for a more in-depth review, look out for another video in the future, which will be my 25 series in 2025 goal to completion, I guess. Something I haven't thought about what I'm actually going to call this series, but it's pretty much just me actually tackling my 25 and 25. So that's to come. But yeah, that was my last read for March. I think overall I had a decent March. I got through a lot of books. I had a hugely fun time doing Realmathon, so I'm really looking forward to participating in that again next year. One of the hosts also has a readathon that happens in May, I think, which is Escape the Readathon, I think it was called. I will link anything down below if I can find it. It was just a great month. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed a lot of the books that I did get to. I was glad that I did manage to get my hands on The Rebel Witch because I was really looking forward to that and didn't want to wait any longer than I did before I was able to read it. So I hope you have enjoyed my wrap up. I'd love to know what you got to in March. What was your favorite read? What was your least favorite? Did you DNF anything? All the fun, interesting stuff. Feel free to leave me a like if you like this video. Comment down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. We'd love to have you around. And I just hope that wherever you are having a wonderful day. And we'll see you next time. Bye.